The cry is small, but it splits the dusk like wire, and I run toward it. Maya said, "Hold the light, Jonah." The beam knifes through creosote and dust, and the world becomes edges. A tortoise thrashes in a snare shell grinding stone. Jonah said, "Steel cable, barbed, old trap." The storm crawls over the ridge, and thunder presses on our backs. I smell rust and panic, and something like burned grass. Dr. Chen said, "Do not cut until we stabilize him," her voice thin on the radio. The tortoise claws for earth that will not move, eyes bright with fear. Maya said, "Easy, soldier, we hear you." A posted sign gleams at the fence like a blade. Jonah said, "Dalton's land, trespass charge if he finds us." Lightning stutters, the cable jerks, and time narrows to breath and heartbeat. The radio crackles with rules and warnings, but the storm writes its own law. Dr. Chen said, "Stabilize airflow and reduce torque on the limb." The tortoise hisses and drags the earth like it can sew itself shut. Jonah said, "We need slack or we shred muscle." A truck growls far off, and the sign chatters like teeth. Maya said, "If Dalton shows, we talk after the cut." The cable has memory and it hates to forget. Ava said, "I have saline and gauze," her hands shaking but steady enough. Thunder folds over us and the wash smells like metal and rain. The tortoise withdraws an inch, then fights again, and time keeps narrowing. I lay out the plan like a map made of seconds. Maya said, "Jonah, wedge and lift." Ava, "Flush when I say." The rain chooses our skin and the ground refuses to hold. Dr. Chen said, "Monitor breathing, watch for shock." The radio hisses, then clears like a throat. Jonah said, "On your mark." Tortoise shakes with a stubborn will that breaks my heart. Ava said, "Ready." Lightning whites the world, and we all look older for a blink. Maya said, "Mock," and the cutters kiss the cable with a dull threat. The cable sings and the tortoise surges, and everything in me says, "Do not miss." Maya said, "Flush now." Saline pours like a small river, and pink clouds bloom in the mud. Jonah said, gaining a millimeter. Wind tears at the tarp and throws grit in our teeth. Dr. Chen said, "If he goes limp, reposition immediately." A coyote yips far off and the sound threads through my nerves. Ava said, "He is fighting, he wants this." The sign chatters, and a new engine rumbles nearer. Maya said, "I am not asking permission." The engine halts beyond the fence and the storm quiets just enough to hear boots. Jonah said, "We are out of time." The cutters set like a verdict, and I feel the weight of every choice. Maya said, "He breathes, we cut, we finish." Dr. Chen said, "Proceed if circulation holds." The tortoise presses his chest to the earth as if praying. Ava said, "Color looks better." Lightning scars the sky and the sign goes still. A voice rises from the dark and tastes like trouble. Maya said, "Stay with me, soldier. We are almost free." The rain breaks into mist and silence comes sharp. "Oh." Maya said, "He is still fighting, Jonah." The tortoise drags a shallow breath, and the snare loosens but not enough. Ava said, "He's bleeding less, but pulse is frantic." Jonah said, "Truck still out there, no lights off." The smell of wet dust fills my lungs like a warning. Dr. Chen said, "Wrap the limb to stop circulation damage." Maya presses cloth and her hands tremble once, then steady. Ava said, "He trusts you, I can feel it." The tortoise closes his eyes for a beat, then blinks like he refuses to surrender. The storm rolls on, quieter now, but time is the loudest thing we hear. The truck engine fades, and for a breath it feels like reprieve. Maya said, "We can finish without being seen." Jonah lowers his cutters, and the metal smells sharp in the air. Ava said, "He's stabilizing." Dr. Chen's voice hums through static, cut and pull clean. Lightning has moved far south, leaving us in pale blue, dark. Jonah said, "One chance, no second cut." The tortoise lifts his head as if he heard every word. Maya said, then let's give him his freedom. For a second, the storm inside me is louder than the storm outside. The cable snaps and time stutters. Jonah said, he's free. The tortoise drags forward, shell scraping, then halts with a shudder. Ava said, he can't move, muscle too damaged. Maya holds his weight like he belongs to her arms. Dr. Chen said, do not force him, let circulation return. The smell of blood mixes with rain and iron. Jonah said, we'll carry him if we must. Maya said, we will not leave him. The tortoise blinks slow, a soldier learning trust 1 second at a time. Ava whispers, he looks at you like he knows. The night feels lighter, though danger waits in every shadow. Jonah said, Dalton knows someone's here. Maya answered, then we keep moving before he arrives. Ava said, he can't walk far. Dr. Chen's voice cracked with static, you must transport him gently. Maya lays the tortoise on a folded top, eyes bright with fear and fire. Jonah said, carrying him will slow us, but no choice. Ava whispered, he's heavier than he looks, but we can manage. The desert hums with silence and the tortoise breathes slow, fragile but steady. The tarp creaks as we lift together, and his weight anchors us to purpose. Maya said, slow and even. Jonah grunted, heavier than gear, but worth every step. Ava said, we'll get him to shelter. Dr. Chen murmurs, monitor respiration, keep him warm. The desert floor muddies our boots, and the air smells of sage and wet stone. Lightning is gone, leaving the world quiet and raw. The tortoise shifts once, shell scraping fabric, then stills. Maya said, stay with us, soldier, we are not done yet. The road is dark, but the path feels like promise. The night deepens as we push into the trail. Maya said, keep steady, he's fading. Jonah's arms strain, mud sucking at his boots. Ava said, I hear coyotes. A chorus answers, closer than we like. Dr. Chen said, wild threats may spook him, shield his eyes if needed. The tortoise stirs, shell shifting against the tarp, weight dragging us slower. Jonah muttered, if Dalton follows, we won't outrun him with this load. The desert feels like an ambush waiting in silence. Maya said, then we don't run, we hold. Thunder mutters far east. But here the real storm is ours. The coyote calls circle tighter, like strings pulling a knot. Ava whispered, they're tracking us. Jonah said, noise will bring Dalton too. Maya presses forward, sweat dripping, boots heavy. Dr. Chen's voice, thin on radio, focus on transport, ignore distractions. The tortoise exhales a hiss that sounds like defiance. Maya said, even he knows what hunts. The night silence breaks with rustling brush. Jonah raised his flashlight, beam slicing trees. Ava whispered, they're closer. My heartbeat drums in time with his. The beam catches 3 coyotes, eyes lit like coals. Jonah said, they're starving, won't scare easy. Maya's hand hovers near her knife, though she hates it. Ava whispered, don't let them get close. The tortoise trembles, shell vibrating against canvas. Dr. Chen said, stay calm, protect but don't provoke. Jonah spreads his stance, a wall between us and them. The coyotes prowl sideways, testing space. Maya said, we keep moving. Slow, no fear. Each step feels like balancing above fire. The coyotes dart forward, snapping, then retreating. Jonah shouted, back! His voice cracks the air like a whip. Ava said, they'll come again. Maya steadies her breath, fear hidden under grit. The tortoise claws at tarp edge, scraping fabric. Dr. Chen said, noise deterrent, light and sound, keep pressure steady. Jonah bangs metal on stone and sparks fly. Coyotes leap back, eyes narrowing. Maya said, go, go now, before they circle again. Every step feels stolen from teeth. The coyotes vanish into dark, but leave their hunger behind. Maya said, not gone, just waiting. Jonah's chest heaves like the desert itself is heavy. Ava whispered, "He's bleeding through again." The tortoise shifts, groaning faintly. Dr. Chen said, "Apply pressure now or you'll lose him." Maya kneels in mud, pressing gauze, face carved in resolve. Jonah said, "We cannot stop long." Ava said, "If we don't, he dies here." The air tastes of fear and rust, and the choice slices sharper than knives. We stagger into a derelict shed by the wash, planks loose and rattling with the wind, the air heavy with mold and rust. Jonah said, "Shelter, but danger stays near." Maya pulled the tarp inside, dragging the tortoise as her breath cut sharp, boots slipping in mud. Ava whispered, "At least it keeps coyotes out." The tortoise stirred, shell scraping rotten wood, sound sharp as teeth. Dr. Chen said, "Stabilize and check identifiers. Sometimes cruelty leaves marks." Maya's hand traced the shell, then froze as fingers met a scar that was no accident. She leaned in and whispered, "Someone carved into him." Jonah frowned, anger low in his throat. "Not nature, not accident. Someone claimed him like property." Ava's voice cracked. "What kind of person does this?" The tortoise hissed, as if memory still burned. The shed's shadows deepened, pressing closer like they carried every secret of the land. The scar on the shell wasn't random. It was a brand, deep and deliberate. Jonah said, "That's no accident. Those are initials carved into living bone." Maya's jaw clenched, fury shaking her voice. Someone owned him, not cared for him. Ava gasped, "Illegal captive. How long has he suffered?" The tortoise hissed and shrank, as if the memory itself burned. Dr. Chen said, "Document this. It changes the scope of rescue. It is now evidence of crime." Maya pressed gauze carefully over the wound, but her eyes glared like embers. Jonah muttered, "Dalton's land. Dalton's trap. This reeks of him." Ava whispered, "He wasn't just trapped. He was a prisoner." The shed groaned with wind, its timbers like voices echoing years of cruelty. Outside the desert was silent, but not empty. Silence thickened as if listening to the truth now revealed. Maya whispered, "This isn't just a rescue. It's evidence carved in blood." Jonah's eyes narrowed. "Dalton runs traps, sells the strong, discards the rest." Ava's voice broke into a tremor. "And this tortoise?" The tortoise groaned low, his body heavy with exhaustion, but his eyes still burning with something deeper. Dr. Chen said through static, "If this is what it seems, he could be tied to a ring. Poachers, traitors, worse." Maya slammed her fist on the boards. "Then we stop him, or this repeats again." Jonah hesitated, thumb resting on the radio, torn between law and conscience. Ava pleaded, "If we call, Dalton hears. He'll silence us." A flash of lightning cut through the boards, a jagged scar across the night sky, as if nature itself echoed the wound. Maya said, "We take the risk, or we abandon every animal branded before him." Her eyes burned with fire, not fear. The shed creaked like it knew it was about to hold secrets too heavy for its rotting bones. Jonah muttered, "If Dalton tracks us here, we're trapped like rats." Maya shot him a glare, her breath rough. "Then we finish before he arrives." Ava clutched the kit, voice breaking, "But law forbids trespass. Hell claim rights." Maya snarled, "Law didn't shield him from chains." Tortoise exhaled, slow, weary, as if his body remembered every wound. Dr. Chen's voice urgent and calm, "Focus on saving him, or he will not see dawn." Maya spread tools across the tarp, metal gleaming in lantern light, her hands trembling between rage and care. Jonah's shoulders tensed, his voice low, "We're crossing lines we can't erase." Maya's words cut sharp. "A line drawn in cruelty is no law worth honoring." Thunder answered like a gavel, rolling across the desert. The air in the shed thickened, until every breath felt like swallowing dust and truth. Maya bent close, whispering, "He's not Chance's victim, he's proof of a human crime." Jonah's voice was raw. Dalton branded him like a stolen horse, like property. Ava whispered through clenched teeth, "But he belongs to no one." The tortoise groaned, his body quaking as if answering her words. Dr. Chen urged, stabilize him, preserve shell and scar, they are evidence and life entwined. Maya pressed cloth tighter, fire rising in her eyes. We save him, and then we bring Dalton down. Jonah's hand loosened from the radio, shoulders sagging as he surrendered to her conviction. Ava leaned closer, whispering like a vow, then we fight for all of them, not just him. The shed fell silent, listening, the storm's rain streaking like tears through its broken boards. Wind hammers the shed, and the lantern gutters, but we line the tools like prayer. Jonah said, we do this now, or we lose him. Ava said, vitals are shaky, pain rising. The tortoise shudders, shell wet with ghosted rain. Dr. Chen said, release the tourniquet in stages, watch refill. My hands tremble, then lock, and I nod to the dark, as if it can bless us. Jonah said, tires on gravel. Ava whispered, just a minute more. I loosen pressure and flush. Old blood bruises the water, not bright. Dr. Chen said, good. Warm him. Anchor him. Thunder advances like a verdict. Maya said, we finish before that door opens. Headlights stripe the gaps, white bars marching across our faces. Jonah said, he's here. A boot scrapes the sill, and a voice of gravel names us. Dalton said, you're on my land, and that animal is mine. The word mine lands like a blow. Ava said, if we stop, he dies. Dr. Chen said, de-escalate, protect the patient first. I step between door and tarp, palms up, heart like thunder. Jonah said, put the rifle down, Dalton. Metal shifts on wood. Then silence loads the room. Maya said, walk away, and we forget this night. The storm answers, and the shed shivers on its nails. Rain ruptures the roof seam, and water fingers across the floor. Jonah said, flash flood, minutes at most. Dalton laughed, let the river clean its mess. Ava said, help carry or move. The tortoise withdraws, bunker of scars under light. Dr. Chen said, uphill now, stabilize in vehicle if possible. My body decides before doubt. I seize the tarp corners and pull. Jonah's shoulders wait, gaze fixed beyond the door. Maya said, Ava, kit and photos, do not lose the evidence. Dalton blocks the threshold, rain knifing from his hat brim. Jonah said, branding wildlife will see daylight. Water slaps our boots cold and negotiating nothing. Lightning explodes so close the boards bleach white and Dalton flinches. The rifle smacks the jam and slides into mud. Jonah said, now. We surge through the door, tarp grinding gravel, breaths ragged. Dalton lunges and grabs a corner, the tortoise groans like old wood. Ava said, let go, he's bleeding. I meet his eyes and find fear elbowing pride. Maya said, help save him, or watch what you did. The night holds a coin between mercy and swagger. Dalton releases, spit lost to rain. Jonah said, up the ridge before the channel fills. The river roars, impatient with our choices. We haul him to the truck as the wash becomes a brown fist. Ava said, blankets, heat packs, steady hands. Dr. Chen said, release pressure fully, check color, dorsal support ready. I cradle the shell while Jonah frees the last wire snarl. The cable sighs, and the limb answers with life. Ava said, refill improving, hold course. The flood rips the shed like paper and carries it into black. Jonah said, elevation now. Maya said, north pull out, then meds. The tortoise lifts his head and tastes the air like dawn. Dalton stands by the road, rain blurring him to a stranger. I whisper, we chose life, we'll face the cost. The truck roared north, tires biting soaked gravel as the flood devoured the valley behind. Jonah said, he's still breathing, steady for now. Ava leaned close, whispering, color looks stronger. The tortoise shifted beneath the blankets, eyes reflecting taillight glow like embers. Dr. Chen's voice was softer now, Maintain warmth, hydration minimal, until circulation stabilizes. Maya pressed her hand against the shell, whispering like a vow, "You're safe. No one claims you again." Rain blurred the windshield, every drop like a ghost of what almost was lost. Jonah said, "Dalton won't forget this." Silence answered, heavy but clean, and for once it felt like we were moving toward hope instead of away from it. We reached the ranger station, walls bright with emergency lamps. Jonah said inside, "Quick." Ava cradled the tortoise as if carrying centuries of weight. Maya guided the door wide, her boots slapping wet concrete. Dr. Chen met us, sleeves rolled, gloves already pulled. She said, "Table prepped, move now." The tortoise groaned, not in fear but in exhaustion. Jonah said, "Every second counts." Ava whispered, "He fought so long he deserves this chance." The air smelled of disinfectant and rain-soaked wood. Maya said, "Then we give him more than a chance, we give him back his life." The room pulsed with light and urgency. Dr. Chen said, "I need silence, monitor vitals, flush wound again." Maya steadied the shell while Ava laid gauze, hands trembling but determined. Jonah leaned against the wall, his chest heaving, sweat shining through rain. The tortoise hissed weakly, claw curling against steel. Dr. Chen said, "Circulation returning, but risk of infection remains." Maya whispered, "You are more than scars, soldier." Ava said, "I'll stay as long as he needs." Jonah muttered, "We all will." The clock above ticked heavy, each second a debt we prayed would be paid in survival. Hours passed in fragments of breath and whispers. Dr. Chen said, "Pulse stabilizing. He's holding." Alva's shoulders sagged, eyes shining with tired relief. Jonah said, "So the fight wasn't for nothing." Maya sat by the shell, her hand resting like a promise. She whispered, "No more chains, no more brands." The tortoise lifted his head slightly, eyes clearer, breath steadying. Dr. Chen said, "If he continues this way, he can be released after rehabilitation." Ava said, "He'll see the desert again." Jonah exhaled hard, tension leaving with the storm outside. For the first time in days, the air felt lighter. Dawn rose clear, the storm's scars glittering across the land. Jonah said, "He'll live." Ava said, "And not as property, but as himself." Dr. Chen smiled faintly. "In time, he'll walk again where he belongs." Maya leaned close to the tortoise, whispering, "The desert is waiting for you." The animal blinked, slow and deliberate, like understanding carried in silence. The station hummed quiet, only birds outside daring to break it. Jonah said, "Dalton will face questions." Maya said, "And this scar will answer louder than his denial." The tortoise exhaled, a sound soft but certain, and we all breathed with him. The desert opened like a wound, healing under dawn, sand glistening from last night's storm, air scented with sage and whetstone. Maya said, "This land was always his, not ours." Jonah's voice was low but sure, "Freedom is the only justice left." Ava held the tortoise a moment longer, whispering, "You carried us as much as we carried you." Dr. Chen's tone softened, reverent, "He's strong enough to return, but the first step is his choice." The tortoise blinked slowly, eyes clearer than hours before, as if tasting the wind for the first time in years. Maya lowered him gently, whispering, "No chains, no marks, only earth and sky." The silence wrapped us tight, carrying the weight of endings and beginnings. We lowered him onto damp earth, and for a long heartbeat he did not move, as though the land itself had stopped breathing. Ava whispered, "He hesitates." Jonah said, "He's deciding whether to trust us one last time." Maya brushed the scar gently, her voice nearly breaking. "We were never his owners, only his keepers for this night." Dr. Chen said firmly, "Give him distance, let instinct write the rest." The tortoise lifted his head, nose tilted toward the sun, blinking at its glare. The wind stirred, carrying the smell of sage and new rain. Jonah muttered, "He belongs more here than we ever will." The air shimmered golden, thick with silence, as if the desert itself bowed to his return. His claws pressed into soil, the sound faint yet monumental, as though he was stitching himself back into the land. Ava gasped, "He's walking." Jonah's throat tightened, "Stronger than he looks." Dr. Chen said, "Instinct is his medicine now, better than anything we can give." Maya's eyes burned with pride and grief as she whispered, "Every scar is a story, and his is no longer written by chains." The tortoise's shell caught the rising sun, bronze light glimmering across its ridges like armor forged in survival. The wind carried whispers of sage and grit, sweeping away every echo of Dalton, every memory of Wire. Ava whispered, "He's free, truly free." Time slowed, stretching each deliberate step into eternity, until even our breath seemed to move in rhythm with his. At the ridge, he paused, claws perched on stone as if marking the threshold between captivity and belonging. For a heartbeat he turned his head, and it felt like his gaze passed through each of us. Maya's whisper cracked the silence, "Goodbye, soldier." Jonah lowered his head, his words steady. "He fought harder than most men I've known." Ava pressed her hands together, whispering, "He carries us into every step he takes." Dr. Chen added softly, "That scar will speak louder than any court testimony, for as long as he lives." The sun climbed higher, spilling molten light across the ridge. His shadow stretched long and defiant, merging into the desert that had been waiting for him all along. In that moment, we realized we had not rescued him, he had rescued us. He vanished into the brush, his shell blending with stone and shadow, until he was only a story, written into the desert. Maya whispered, "Chains only break when we fight them." Jonah said, "Tonight we chose and will keep choosing." Ava's voice trembled but carried hope. "He will outlive storms, scars, and even us." Dr. Chen folded her arms, calm pride on her face. "He will remind us why compassion matters, every time we remember him." The desert shimmered in the rising heat, vast and unbroken, as if nothing had happened, yet everything had. We stood together, four figures in silence, our breaths woven with his survival. The last sound was faint, the scrape of shell on stone, steady and eternal, before even that faded into wildness. His freedom was now larger than us all.